Rumors have surfaced the Canucks are looking at a trade that could be massive for their season, and former president Trevor Linden spoke out on how they almost never drafted Pettersson. We'll get into that later on in this episode, but before we start, I just wanted to say that 78.4% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you're enjoying this daily NHL content, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button because we'll be here all season long. But we'll get straight into the first topic, which is Canucks almost didn't draft Pettersson. Now, if you kept up with recent reports, there was an article that just recently came out by the Canucks Central where on this Trevor Linden did speak, and he said if he had his choice, he probably would have taken a different player. This was him talking about Benning and when they drafted Pettersson. He also went on to say I wasn't happy with the way our process was in 2016, and that was the first year Judd had taken over the reins, and I did not like how our meetings went. So in 2017, I really pushed hard to have Judd really step up and just run things in the meetings, and we can put our thoughts and feelings on the table. So this came after Linden did the interview. He was talking about how if Jim Benning had his way, that he wouldn't have drafted Pettersson. Now, everyone that's a Canucks fan, everyone in the league should know Pettersson at this point. Pettersson right now is leading the league in points, and he was a sixth overall pick in that year. When you do look at him this year, he's 24 points in 13 games, including his 7 goals and his 13 points. And just from this, you could see where he wasn't happy with how Benning was handling things. I know a lot of Canucks fans feel the exact same way. So the Canucks did end up taking Pettersson with the 6th overall pick, thanks to Judd and Linden. A guy drafted right after him was a guy like Cody Glass, and people that were a little farther behind were Nick Suzuki, Timothy Logan, Robert Thomas, and Jake Ottinger. So when you kind of look at this, some of these names were great. I mean, Nick Suzuki has been good for the Montreal Canadiens. Timothy Logan has been good for Toronto. And Jake Ottinger has been outstanding for Dallas. But when they did this draft, they already had a guy like Markstrom and Demko, who's been an absolute wall for them. It's a good thing they didn't move on from him, and they did end up moving Markstrom. But these players behind him didn't have the same thing that Pettersson can bring. As I said, Pettersson's currently leading the NHL in scoring. He's leading one of the top teams in the league right now in points. And the big thing here is if Pettersson wasn't drafted, if Benning had his way, the Canucks might not be in the situation they are right now. They might not be looking for these trades to kind of move on and take the next step to being the top team in the league, which does bring us to our second topic, which is the Canucks are looking at a big trade. Now, this came in an article recently by Darren Drager of TSN. He did come out and say the Canucks are looking to upgrade on their blue line, and more specifically, are looking to add a right-handed defenseman. He said the Canucks general manager have already pulled one trade off this season, acquiring Sam Lafferty from Toronto, which he has looked good for the Canucks so far. I think Lafferty has been a great piece. But he said there's also been chatter and moving around of acquiring a defenseman and moving Connor Garland in a trade as well. So when you look at this, we know there's a lot of Connor Garland trade talks going around. Garland was a guy that looked a bit expendable to this team when you have a guy like Bavillius stepping up. JT Miller looking like he's having an incredible season. Pettersson has looked outstanding so far, and you still have a guy like Kuzmenko. So moving one of these guys and Garland out is a situation where you can move him to look for something that you might need a bit more. And this leads to a rumor that came out this summer and has kind of trickled into the season of the Columbus Blue Jackets are looking to move Andrew Peck. Now, Andrew Peck is a guy that's played 3 games so far this year with Columbus. In these 3 games, he's registered 1 point. He has 8 blocks, 6 hits, 2 takeaways, and 1 giveaway. But if you look back to last year, in 80 games, he did have 13 points, negative 41, but this was on a terrible Columbus team. He had 197 blocks. He also had 180 hits. The previous year was 169 blocks and 191 hits. So when you kind of look at Peck, he's the type of defenseman. He's a big body. He throws hits, as you can see from here, the 191, the 180. He's 6'3", 214 pounds, I believe. He's going to get into the dirty areas. He'll throw hits. He'll block shots. He's your stereotypical just bruiser defenseman, and I think he'd look outstanding on this Canucks team. And when you do look at Columbus, they do have a couple options here. I mean, Reninsky and a guy like Severson are probably off the board. Same with Provorov. But when you kind of trickle down, they do have about 6 or 7 defensemen that they feel comfortable playing and that are getting paid over $2 million. So they do need to move one of these guys out. So when you look at the bottom here, this is Andrew Peck. He's 25 years old, and he's on a great contract. This year and 2 of the next years, he is getting paid $2.75 million. This is a guy that the Canucks could pick up on a great cost control. We seen just last year when Luke Schenn was in Vancouver, he was playing incredible next to a guy like Quinn Hughes. Quinn played great off him as well. And this is where I think Peck could come in. He's a similar defenseman into Luke's situation where he's a big body. He can throw, he'll hit blocks, he'll break up plays. He's your defensive guy that's still going to be an enforcer type. And I think he fits perfectly in a lineup next to Quinn Hughes, or maybe a little farther down the lineup if you wanted to do this as well. So now when you do look at the Canucks, like I said, they are a top team in the league. Right now they're second in the West. They're tied for third in the entire league. They're 10-2-1. They're looking outstanding. Their goals for, goals against, they're plus 33. They're currently 5-1 at home, 5-2 on the road, and they're on a 5-game win streak. Not a lot has to change here. I don't think the Canucks are going to look out in a big shake-up situation. Like I said, I think Garland's the extendable guy where you can kind of move him out and still keep this core together. But then when you do look at the defense, a guy like Quinn Hughes and Peck would be a great top pairing. Tyler Myers is the type of guy I know I would. I know a lot of Canucks fans feel the same way, where shelter minutes would probably benefit him. We've seen a lot of times, especially when he hits his own teammates and gives up goals. I think he's a guy that you could slide down to the lineup. So maybe you wanted to run the second pairing of Soucy and Hronek, and then a guy like Cole and Myers could fill at your bottom. And you still have a guy like Friedman, Juleson. One of these guys can come in. And I think this would just benefit the Canucks. Like I said, you can slide in a guy like Peck into this top line with Quinn Hughes. You can maybe slide him down into the second one with Soucy or a guy like Ian Cole, depending on the situation, depending on the matchup. But like I said, we've seen how good a guy like Luke Schenn played next to a guy like Quinn Hughes last year and vice versa. So I think if you take a young, cost-controlled Luke Schenn and a guy like Peck and slide him into this lineup, it would just be massive where they bolster the right side, get the physicality that you do need in the defense. We've seen from previous years. I mean, Vegas had a lot of physical guys. You go back to the Avs, Tampa, and a guy like Corey Perry and Pat Maroon. All these teams have physical guys, and I think the Canucks almost need to add on. Just add an extra physical guy without changing the chemistry, without changing too much, and I think Peck would be a huge piece for this. You can also look at maybe a guy like Ruda, who's currently on the San Jose Sharks. He did go on a couple of cup runs with Tampa Bay, so you do get pedigree out of him. I know he's about 33 years old, so he's about 7 years older than a guy like Peck. So you are kind of giving up the youth to get a more of a Stanley Cup champion pedigree guy out of a guy like Ruda. But I think Peck is the option they should go for. I know with rumors of Peck being on the trade block, with the Canucks looking to move Garland to bolster the right side, I think it's a match made in heaven, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is something that did come out. Anyways, we'll get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today comes from NFLD Pony. Gave you guys a look and liked what I saw. Sign on and hit the thumbs up button from St. John's, Newfoundland. It's awesome to see fellow Newfoundlanders. If you don't know, myself and Casey, my host, are both from Newfoundland. So just seeing Newfoundlanders is awesome. And just seeing everyone from around. If you wanted to go down and comment where you're from, where you're watching from, where you were born to, it'd be awesome. We love reading the comments. And while you're down there, leave a comment. Do you think a trade for Garland for Peck would be awesome? Do you think Peck is not the type of defenseman you need? Do you think you keep Garland? And what's your thoughts on Benning almost not drafting Pettersson? Do you think this would have halted the future, or do you think drafting a guy like Jake Ottinger would have been a better option? Anyways, that's it for this episode. If you enjoy this content, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment. We love reading it as just the engagement and being a part of the Hat Trick community. But if you enjoy the NHL, check out this video that's on your screen somewhere above, and take care.